Welcome back, once again adventurers, to Let's Play ChäoS Child. In the last episode, things unfolded somewhat differently. As Uki did in fact recover somewhat, but even though her body is physically alive, a part of her mind is still trapped somewhere, either in her head or out in the void of the Direct Sea. But when Takuru brought her to the place where she had been given her very special plant in the delusion reality, there was a moment of recognition there. But with that said, we have now completed the character roots of Hanai Arimura, Hana Kazuki, and Uki Yamazoe. But there is one more character route that we have left to explore. That of this person standing before us right here and now, Nonu Kurusu herself. It has taken me a long time to get to this point, and I am actually quite excited to see what unfolds in the future. She was about to say something when her foot got caught on one of the cables running across the room. This is her dramatic introduction / entrance. And she suddenly tripped. Delusion trigger, go! I moved quickly. She staggered forward, but I grabbed her to keep her from falling. Her hair flew up and tickled my nose. Takuru to the rescue. It smelled good, and her body was very soft. Extremely soft, in fact. It felt kind of squeezable. What was I touching? Was any part of a person's body this soft? No. At least, nothing on a man's body was. Which meant... what was the softness?
宮代、お前とんでもない勇者だな。こんな大勢の前で堂々と女帝のおっぱいをもみもみするなんて。
Which basically means you have about 10 seconds left to live. Yeah.
あ、いや、これは事故だ。事故なんだ。
Of course, that would never happen in reality. If that ever happened, she would kill me for sure. That she would. Just thinking about it made my blood run cold. She almost tripped, but managed to keep her balance. Well, I suppose all's well that ends well, I guess. And of course, we have to deal once again with Mr. Masashi Kawahara. Of course, we all know by now was Kurusu and Senri's childhood friend, but of course, because of that, he really doesn't like Takuru Miyashiro. And of course, the feeling is mutual. But this time around, things aren't going to end particularly well.
川原君に迷惑はかけてないと思いますけど。かかってるんだよ。クルスの時間が割かれると同じ生徒会の俺たち全員にな。
So you say, but yeah, your irritation with Takuru has nothing to do with student council business. God damn it. Yeah.
うるさいな。
No more Mr. Nice, Takuru.
なんだって？今うるさいって言ったのか？
Pretty much. Apologies there. Had to take a quick break. But yeah, Kamahara isn't too pleased with Takuru's sudden attitude. But then again, you started it. He must have heard that because he came storming up to me. He tried to grab me by the collar, but I knocked his hand away. Instead, I grabbed his head and put it under my arm.
おい、離せ!
I grabbed his belt and lifted him up off the ground.
お、ブレーンバスターか。そのまま垂直落下で落とせ、宮代。
Of course, if you drop him over the side, that will almost certainly kill him.
やめなさい。危ないでしょ。
Be definitely be classified as murder. I raised Kamahara up above my head and then stood there, unmoving, for a long moment. Forget Brainbuster. How about the jackhammer? Jackhammer suplex. Just when I was deciding on whether to drop him or put him down.
おい、下ろせ!
He flailed his legs out toward the ceiling and tried to escape. The man didn't know when to give up. I could do a lot worse than just drop you, you know. Of course, that would get you arrested, Takuru. I shifted Kamahara around in my arms and quickly moved into position for a pile driver. A regular one or a tombstone? Then I dropped to the ground butt first and slammed his head into the floor.
スタイナースクリュードライバー!
I heard an awful crunching sound. His skull must have fractured. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that he's completely paralyzed now. But just before I dropped him, I let go a little, so it didn't hit him as hard as it could have. If I hadn't, he would be dead right now.
Takuru, やりすぎよ。
Kurusu's face was expressionless.
警察に通報するわ。
僕が悪いんじゃない。僕を苛立たせた川原君が悪いんだ。
そんな理由で人生を棒に振ったの。あなたがそんなに愚かだったなんて知らなかった。
I watched in a daze as Kurusu called the police. Kamahara passed out, little bubbles of foam foaming around his mouth. The teachers had heard the noise and started to gather around me. I guess I'm going to have to drop out of school. Yeah, that's what would happen. A Scorpion Deathlock, on the other hand, now that's an entirely different story. Or maybe the Walls of Jericho, or the Hell's Gate Submission Hold, perhaps. I could beat the stuffing out of Karaharu right now if I wanted, but that would just get me in trouble. I didn't want to ruin my life over something like that. So I decided just not to say anything to him. Because, yeah, he is not worth our time. And, of course, from his perspective, we are not worth his time. So, let us agree to disagree, and leave it at that. Jumping ahead now, we're back at the newspaper club of Hekiho Academy, where Takuru and Ito were being lectured by Kurusu over the fact that they were so interested in the first two murders of the Return of the New Generation Madness. Unfortunately, however, yeah, things got mildly awkward because the window was open, allowing for fresh air to be drawn into the room. Unfortunately, that isn't all that's happened. But of course, in true fashion, we are going to head into the lion's den and stick our head in the jaws of the lion once again. It was entirely possible that I'd been mistaken. If I burned the image into my brain now, maybe the next time something like this happened, I'd be able to react more quickly. So I prayed for more good luck. If it ever did happen again, I swore I would react as the right shiders should. Or Kurusu could just straight up murder you and Ito together. A right sider wouldn't panic over something as insignificant as seeing a girl's underwear. Yeah. In a situation like that, it was critical that you stay calm. That isn't the issue there, Takuru. But realistically, the chances of seeing anything like that happening again were near zero. Also, the fact, I'd like to point out that particular route choice wasn't there in my first sojourn in this Let's Play. But I just thought I'd point that out. The wind wasn't especially strong today. So if I ever wanted to see my pure white goddess again, I needed the help of something other than the wind. And lo and behold, for example, let's say that for some reason the pencil holder on the desk fell to the ground. Of course, at this moment in time, Takuru doesn't realize that he actually has powers of psychokinesis. God damn it. Yeah. Kurusu would complain a little, but she'd bend over and start picking up the pens on the floor. I'd help, of course. I'd bend over like she did. But since we were both at eye level to each other, there was no way I'd get to see anything. If I did have a chance, it would be when she stood up. When that happened, I could watch her stand up acting as natural as possible. Yeah, right. Since I was bent over, I would naturally be lower than her. Maybe then I would see my goddess once more. We're really doing this. We're really doing this. And then Ito moved to turn on the printer, and his hand knocked my camera off the desk. I watched in shock as the camera fell toward the floor, as if in slow motion. Again. Instead of 2 strokes of good luck, I've been given 2 strokes of bad. The first time the camera had survived. I might not be so lucky this time. So my body moved without thinking. Yeah, those cameras are quite expensive. They're not cheap. I flung myself forward and stretched out my hand toward the falling camera. That thing's expensive. I'm not letting it fall twice. Yeah, good job, Shinji. If it broke, the money's coming out of your expenses. The camera fell right into my outstretched hand. Yes, nice catch. I couldn't believe it. Well, that was fortuitous. But I was going too fast to stop. I slid head first along the floor. Yeah, that sounded painful.
うお、お前無茶するな。
Yeah, that's going to leave a bruise. Kurusu ran over to me. And then a miracle occurred. Oh god. I was lying on my back and I looked up toward the ceiling. At the same time, Kurusu bent over to help me. And since she was in a hurry, she didn't take time to hold down her skirt. So I saw her. It wasn't as clear as before, but I got a quick glimpse of my pure white goddess. And from a much closer distance than before and at a lower angle. Right.
タクル、どこ見てるのよ、もう。バカなんだから。
Yeah, no. Nah, no way. If that actually happened, she would take the camera from your hand and drop it on your head. Kurusu wasn't the type to be cute when she was embarrassed. Given her expression of what happened the first time in reality, she'd probably get another scary look on her face, then start choking me and demanding to know what I was looking at. No way, that was never going to happen. It was wrong to hope for another encounter with my white goddess. It would only end in tragedy and pain. If I got slapped for peeping at the student council president's panties, it would damage my reputation at school. I gritted my teeth and tried to stop my gaze from wandering down to her skirt. When she heard Ito turn on the printer, Kazuki trotted over like she usually did. Well, at least we got that out of the way. Moving on. Jumping ahead now, we're back at the point where Takuru and Ito are contemplating bribery and corruption by hoping to coerce Nano Kurusu with sweets, which he loves. This was something that Serika had said and that I'd known about too. So would buying her something she liked from a famous sweet shop be enough to win her over? Who knows? Would bribery work on someone as prim and proper as the student council president? It was worth a try. Unless we could win her over, we weren't going to be able to continue with the case. Yeah, because after what happened with Kakita's murder, Kurusu was definitely putting her foot down.
よし、これから賄賂を買いに行こう。尾上、クルスが好きなスイーツ店の上位3つを教えてくれ。
買いに行くなら私も行きたい。
Yeah, we're not going to give you sweets, Serika. That's not part of the plan. She was clearly intending to buy something for herself. Well, that was fine. It was time for the mission to begin.
というわけで、これ、クルスにプレゼント。
I knew that Kurusu was staying late after school to get ready for the festival. I handed her the present I'd just bought. Serika told me about a pancake place near Shibuya Station. It was a popular store where there was always a line of girls outside. I heard it was one of the few places where you could get pancakes for takeout, so I quickly chose it. Standing in line with the girls for an hour was almost torture, but I somehow managed to do it.
これってエッグスンサンクスのパンケーキ？
Eggs and thanks.
そうだけど。
あそこいつも並んでいるからなかなか手に入らないのに。
Her eyes were shining like a little girl's. It wasn't an expression I was used to seeing from her. Yeah, very uncharacteristic.
私にくれるの？本当に？
A token of goodwill? Yeah, not really.
うん。いつも迷惑かけてるし。
タクルがこういうプレゼントをくれるなんて珍しいね。
Yeah, very rare.
ありがとう。すごく嬉しい。
あ、うん。
After seeing how happy she was, I couldn't tell her that I was trying to bribe her.
あれおかしいな。
え、なんで？
Why was she crying?
ごめんね。こんな幸せあるんだなって思って。
Was the pancake really that delicious? I mean, probably, but still.
変だよね。こんなことで泣いちゃうなんて。 でも本当に嬉しかったの。ありがとうね、タクル。よかったら半分こしない？いいでしょ？
I was satisfied with the results of my simulation. Really? Because that didn't scream mission accomplished to me. This might work.
よし、わかった。
いいのか？
Ito must have been really surprised by my answer because he badly overreacted.
お前はそんなに勇敢なやつだったか？
やるときはやるんだよ。ただサーバーに上げるのは待ってくれ。慎重を期したい。
オッケー。
それからとりあえず今はボードに情報を貼り付けるけれど、まとめ終わったら一旦剥がそう。ことは簡単じゃないんだ。
Yeah, trying to continue the investigation behind Kurusu's back.
オッケ
それから事件のことに関してはとりあえずクルスに秘密にしよう。それでほとぼりが冷めるまで様子を見つつ、クルスが甘いものでも食べて機嫌がいい時に切り出すんだ。
Yeah, still some doubt as to whether that part of the plan would actually work.
ー。オッケー。
But Serika seems to be just going along with it. Because of course she would.
じゃねえだろ。ただのヘタレじゃねえか。
What?
ヘタレじゃない。もっとも成功率の高い方法を弾き出したらこうなるんだ。それをヘタレと呼ぶのはヘタレの定義として。
はいはい、わかったわかった。ほら、尾上。地図貼るからそっち持て。
Yeah, something tells me that Shinji doesn't actually have that much enthusiasm with the Guru's plan. And actually, to be frank, neither do I. But still, moving on. And now, here we are, standing, gazing at a dorm in the evening. I silently looked up at the building. Well, we're here to see Kurusu. Let's go in with a positive attitude, shall we? The lights were on in the room at the end of the living room on the third floor, which meant she was awake. I'd known she would be, but still, I couldn't help but sigh. Typical habits. That was the end of my last hope. After Serika had answered the phone, she handed it to me without saying a word. Just like I expected, her voice was calm. Both me, Serika, and Ida knew from experience that meant she was angry. She told me to come home immediately in a flat, emotionless voice. I couldn't even make any excuses. I'd been hoping she'd be asleep when I got back, but no such luck. Now I realized there was never any chance of that. No, I didn't know for certain that she wanted to talk about what happened today. It might be about something else. One can only hope. But it's a full-on hope at that.
僕だけど。
タクル？来てくれたのね。入って。
came inside and Kurusu welcomed me from the bed.
おかえり。ちょっと待って。
Kurusu started to rummage through something under the blankets. If she was going to get mad, I would prefer if she got mad now. Right now, it felt like sitting on a bed of nails. It was hellish. And again, Kurusu is still nursing a stab wound. Right about now.
あのさ、今日呼び出したのってやっぱり。
Just as I spoke, Kurusu stood up.
なんで脱いでるんだ。
She wasn't even wearing underwear. Oh, but if she had been lying down this whole time, it would make sense if she wasn't dressed. Wait, that wasn't the issue here. Definitely not.
背中を拭いてもらおうと思って。
もしかして呼び出したのってそのためか。
ごめんね。迷惑だった？
いや、なんていうか。
This doesn't make any sense. Kurusu wasn't usually like this. Yeah, that's because this is all taking place in your head. I wasn't sure how to handle her now that she was acting this way.
ユイやユードに頼めばいいのに。
タクルに甘えたくなっちゃったのかも。こういう時ぐらいいいでしょ？
She wanted me to do that.
そんなこと言い出すなんて絶対変だ。熱でもあるんじゃないのか。
恥ずかしがることなんてないのに。何年か前、タクルが熱出して寝込んだ時に私いろいろやってあげたじゃない。
Phrasing.
いろいろって？
下の世話だってしたよね。
Kurusu giggled a little. I hadn't heard anything about her having a fever, so why was she acting this way?
タクルの体のことなら私何でも知ってる。兄弟なんだからそれは普通のことでしょ。
Was that normal? The answer to that question is no.
タクル、今日だけでいいから甘えさせてよ。
わかったよ。
ありがとう。
But it was still embarrassing enough that I couldn't bring myself to look at her.
タクル、目をそらさないで。
My heart skipped a beat.
それってどういう。
私の全部をタクルに今からさらけ出すから。
gulped loudly. On a completely unrelated note, there are actual genuine secrets that Nano Kurusu is keeping from Takuru Miyashiro. The gigglomaniac kind, of course. Her face was bright red. Did she have a fever after all? Or...
クルスだって恥ずかしがってるじゃないか。
うん。変よね。思ったよりずっと恥ずかしい。
To be honest, I wanted to run away as soon as I could. But I just said I would do it. I couldn't betray Kurusu when she was this weak.
見るよ。
嬉しい。
I looked straight at her body.
「何か言ったら？」
She was beautiful, apparently. But I couldn't bring myself to say that.
それじゃあタクル、お願いしていい？
え？お願いって？
だから体を拭いてほしいんだけど。
That's right, I'd forgotten.
そこにタオルあるから。
She already had a towel and a bowl of hot water ready. I wet the towel and got closer to Kurusu.
前から後ろから。
She fidgeted. It was really cute to see Kurusu acting this way, not the appellation I would use.
前も拭いてくれるの？
Yeah, she specifically, said to wipe her back down of sweat. Yeah, never mind the fact that this is all not happening in reality. Kurusu didn't need me to wipe it down her front side, she could do it herself.
いやだってずっとこっち向いてるから。
Oh no, I was panicking even more than usual.
ごめん、背中だよね。
いいよ。
え？
She looked straight at me.
いいよ。
What was okay? No, I didn't need to ask. But why did you? I gulped again, then looked back at her. Her pale skin was slightly slick with sweat. Her breasts were large, firm, and round. Her hips formed a smooth curve. She looked like a statue of Venus. I never realized Kurusu was so pretty. I wanted to touch her body now we're going into the point of no return. She looked so soft. Her skin looked so clear. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't turned on. But more than anything, I wanted to touch it because it belonged to Kurusu. I wanted to touch her beautiful body because it was hers. I reached my hand out towards Kurusu's neck, not the one with the towel, but the empty one, and ran my fingertips softly down the side of it.
Takuru. なんでそんなところ。
Her body shook a little. It was indescribably cute. Kurusu was always the big sister, bossing me around and telling me what to do. And now she was squirming under my touch. It felt good, like I'd made her my own.
クルス、僕はクルスのこともっと好きにしたい。
She nodded, embarrassed.
あなたの好きにして。
So glad that's over. And we got an achievement. Give up on the case, Takuru. Which is probably a sign that we have finally made it onto Kurusu's character route. But not quite yet. Kurusu, I will not stop tickling you until you apologize. Kurusu has absolutely nothing to apologize for, Takuru Miyashiro. This is your fault. This is your delusion. I was trying too hard to escape from reality. You think? If I was imagining Kurusu in a situation like that, I must be under more stress than I thought. When I went inside, she was sitting on the bed waiting for me.
傷に触るだろ。ちゃんと寝てないと。
Yeah, she's still injured. But now the time has come to, move forward to a very, very crucial moment in time. So I shall see you all in just a moment. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's finally come to this. Back at the moment where Takuru Miyashiro was returning to Hekiho Academy after realizing the truth that Kurusu herself had figured out that Serika Noe was in fact one of the people responsible for the return of the new generation madness. Before, though, Takuru had arrived too little, too late, as he had found Serika standing above the fallen body of Nono Kurusu. But this time, the choices that we have made should affect the outcome. Fingers crossed. Let's open that door and see what's on the other side. stared in shock at what I saw beneath the moonlight. I couldn't comprehend what I was seeing. Lo and behold, Nono Kurusu is still alive, but barely holding her own against the might of Serika Noe. For Serika has the gift of telepathy, which means that for all of Kurusu's determination and skill, her opponent can easily read her intentions. But despite the fact that she has clearly lost quite a lot of blood, as evidenced by the bloodstains on the grass of the roof, Kurusu isn't backing down an inch. But at least, she is alive. Kurusu is panting heavily, her face twisted in pain, and holding a tall D-sword in her hands. Yeah, last time, Takuru didn't witness the fact that Kurusu herself was a gigolomaniac. But now he has. Sorry, my voice went a bit weird there for a second. I apologize. But hopefully, no. We still have Serika to deal with. I'll put my thoughts on hold until after we make it out of this. If we make it out of this. There was red liquid splattered all around the rooftop. It was probably her blood. Serika was attacking her with a D-sword of her own. I'd never seen Serika look like that before. Unfortunately, Kurusu's stamina is waning. Kurusu was just barely keeping up. I had no idea why she had a D-sword, but the design of the sword itself was a combination of blade and shield, and it was just barely keeping her alive. She can't hold out much longer. We need to intervene, Takuru, before it's too late. We can't afford to lose her this time.
Takuru?
Yeah, both Kurusu and Serika are surprised by the fact that Takuru has returned. Of course, this might have been avoided if Takuru had decided to wait at the school instead of rushing over to Aoba dorm, thereby missing Kurusu at the 11th hour.
どうして来たの？逃げなさい、早く！
お前こそ何やってんだよ。なんでディソードなんか持ってんだよ。
Yeah, it's time for some answers. At long last. Yeah, Serika wasn't the only one keeping secrets from Takuru. Kurusu looked at her D-sword, then at my face, then down at her feet.
そうか、宮代にはまだ話してないんだな、このまがいものめ。だったら私が今ここでぶちまけてやろう。
What do you mean by fake, Serika?
おのえ！
Kurusu struck without warning. She was a different person than I'd ever seen before. Does that mean she's a fake gigalomaniac? I'd almost forgotten how creepy and terrifying you could be in reality, Serika Noe. But the expression you have now has just reminded me all too well. The two twisted blades collided with the sound of metal screeching against metal. Both refused to back down. Yeah, Kurusu clearly does not have the edge in this fight.
いつもめんどくさい女だとは思っていたが、理想度まで鬱陶しいな。
So the truth comes out. All this time, Serika Noe has completely despised Nano Kurusu.
あなたこそ困った理想度を持っているみたいね。
Then again, Serika Noe isn't one to talk about people's flaws.
確かに私ではあなたにかなわない。力も違う。それにあなたの思考盗撮で考えをすべて読まれてしまう。
And that begs the question, what is Kurusu's gigalomaniac power? Although, given her personality and her attitude at Aoga Dorm, and given Takuru's observation of her D-sword, I think I can guess. Or at least speculate. Well, they're the same thing. I think that Kurusu's power stems from the fact that she wanted to protect everyone that was important to her. So I think in retrospect, she is a guardian of sorts, a protector. But as Serika has clearly demonstrated, Kurusu isn't all-powerful.
Demo, 気づいているのかしら？あなたのディソード。こうしていると、私のディソードを通して思考が逆流してくるわよ。
Ah, of course. When Serika and Takuru's D-swords attacked each other, when they collided, the negative particles intersected and caused each of them to experience the other's thoughts, feelings, and personalities. So it was that Takuru was able to experience everything that Serika had hidden from him, including aspects of her collaboration with Sakuma. And speaking of Sakuma, it's going to be only a matter of time before Kurusu learns the truth about her so-called guardian. I am so sorry, Kurusu.
何？
But yes, because of this unique phenomenon, this blending of minds, Kurusu is able to keep up with Serika, even though Serika is telepathic.
そう、あなたの思考がね。
In other words, they're at an impasse. Serika didn't seem to have realized this because she pulled away her D-short sword in shock. As she did, she jumped backward.
そんなバカな。
Oh, it certainly is possible. Until now, she'd been completely expressionless, like a crazy murderer. But for the first time, I saw doubt in her eyes. Because Kurusu now knows things about Serika that she wanted to keep to herself.
このディソードが私自身の思考まで盗撮して伝播させてしまう。
Not necessarily. It's more of the collision of the negative particles, but I just went over that.
おかげであなたのこと全部わかったわ。これでおあいこね。
Which means that Serika doesn't quite have the advantage after all.
さあ、どうするの？私を殺したいんでしょ？だったら殺せばいいわ。
Of course, since she's not backing down, Kurusu's fiery temperament might yet prove her salvation.
今すぐにタクルの目の前で。それがタクルのしたいことなんでしょ？だったら私は喜んで殺されてあげるわ。
クルス。
Ah. Interesting. Very interesting. In other words, Nono Kurusu knows the truth behind Serika Inoe's existence, the reason why she was rebooted into this world by Takuru's childhood will. Which means she understands full well. What did she say? It was what I wanted. Not this time. I wanted her to kill Kurusu? What the hell did that mean? You'll find
あな
out.
たにはタクルの心がわかるのよね。タクルが私を殺してほしいって本当にそう思ってるならやりなさい。
Of course, if he doesn't, then Serika, by going against Takuru's wishes, would ultimately be going against her own ethos as well. And as she has proven, Serika Inoue will not do that under any circumstances.
どうしたの？殺さないの？
Kurusu held her D-sword in one hand and spread the other out to the side, as if to demonstrate how vulnerable she was. But Serika didn't attack her. She can't. She can't betray herself, and she can't betray Takuru.
セリカ、
Not this time.
あなたの考えてることは矛盾してるわ。
Indeed, because Serika Inoue is a conflicted existence.
矛盾？は？どこが矛盾してると言うんだ？
Because it's a contradiction.
あなたはこう思ってる。自分はタクルにやりたいことを与え、それを叶えるために存在しているって。
it gives me something I want to do. In a loose manner of speaking. In other words, Serika exists to entertain Takuru Miyashiro above all else. Very much in a very twisted version of Uki Yamazoe in that sense. That's why she exists. What the hell was going on here? It didn't make sense. The two of them kept glaring at each other, ignoring me.
でもこんなのタクルのやりたいことだと思う？親友である伊藤君に大事な妹ユイを殺されて。そんなことタクルが本当に望んでると思うの？
それはこのゲームを盛り上げるための。
And so the penny drops.
なら私も殺しなさい。そうすればタクルがもっと喜ぶんでしょ。この
There's nothing Serika can do or say to that. Kurusu would load her weapon, completely exposing herself. Serika raised her own. And yet Serika cannot strike. Because it's not intriguing. There is nothing whatsoever about this. Not now.
やめろ、尾上。
宮代タクル。
Yeah, we're
僕
still
はそんな
here.
こと望んでない。僕はそんなことしたくない。してほしくもない。
I finally knew now. I finally knew what was important to me. What I really wanted was... And now Serika knows it as well. Serika swung her D-sword up high, as if driven by some unseen force.
やめろ。
ダメ、タクル。
I tried to leap between them, but Kurusu's voice interrupted me.
来てはダメ。今はセリカと話をさせて。
Okay then.
でも
お願いよ、タクル。
Her voice was calm, but there was no room for disagreement. I hesitated a moment and then stopped. But I was ready to jump in at any moment if I needed to. Kurusu turned towards Serika once more and continued. Serika was still holding her D-sword above her head, but she was pale and unmoving.
セリカ、あなた人の心は読めるのに、自分の心は全然わかってないのね。
Indeed.
何？
確かに最初はタクルのために始めたゲームだった。でも途中からあなたの目的は変わってしまったのよ。タクルのためのゲームではなく、あなた自身のためのゲームに。
私のためのゲーム。
わからない？あなたはね、タクルと過ごすうちにタクルを支えられるのは自分だけだと、そう考えるようになったの。
It's exactly what Serika believed all this time.
タクルが心を許す存在は自分だけ。そうじゃないと我慢できなくなったのね。
違う、私は。
あなたは羨ましくなった。そして許せなくなった。タクルが心を許している家族のことを、親友を、自分の存在を脅かす存在を。そしてタクルに家族や友達のことを思う心を育ててしまったこの私を許せなくなった。
黙れ。
私にはわかるわ。あなたの嘘が、あなたの気持ちが。だってそれはあなたがタクルを。
黙れよ。
セリカ、確かにあなたは人形だったのかもしれない。でも今はもう。
黙れ、黙れ、黙れ、黙れ、黙れ。
セリカ。
Unfortunately, she doesn't want to listen to Kurusu's words.
お前、あんたなんかに何がわかるって言うのよ。嘘。何が嘘だって言うんだ。
Actually, quite a bit, if I'm being honest. Something was wrong with the way she was talking. There was a mix between the Serika I knew and the one I didn't.
だいたいお前が人のことを言えるのか。嘘つきはどっちよ。この嘘つき。ああ、嘘つき。
Unfortunately, Serika does have a point. Kurusu has been keeping things from us. Kurusu froze for a moment when Serika called her a liar. Serika must have thought she finally had the upper hand again because she smiled.
さっきもそうだったけど、顔色が変わったね。タクによっぽど知られたくないんだ。嘘つきさん。
Unfortunately, we need to know. Even if that knowledge changes us, even if that knowledge changes everything. Liar. Come to think of it, Serika had said before that there was something Kurusu wasn't telling me. No, Kurusu had told me that herself too.
いつかタクルにだけは私が言えないでいること、何もかも全部話したいと思ってる。そのせいでまた嫌われちゃうかもしれないけど、それでも構わない。
There are still things she hasn't told us.
その時はちゃんと最後まで聞いてくれる？
What was going on? What was Serika and Kurusu saying?
私ね、全部知ってる。あんたが出来の悪い大嘘つきの。
やめて。
フェ だってことをね。
There's that word again. Fake.
やめて
Kurusu's hand flew forward. Her blade sliced out towards Serika in a circle, ripping through the air as it moved. Must have been an unconscious movement. So fast that there wasn't even time to read her mind. And Serika hadn't expected her to stop talking and attack, so her response was a little slow. But she still managed to block it at the last minute.
やる気満々だね。そういうの嫌いじゃないよ、のんちゃん。
The D swords collided again. Their silver silhouettes scorched the atmosphere around them. The blades bit into one another in a rush of feints and parries. A scent like ozone stung my nostrils. Chemical formula O3. This molecule is created in the ozone layer and consists of 3 oxygen atoms. It has a strong, unique scent. The second strongest oxidizer after fluorine. It's used as a deodorizer, decolorant, and disinfectant. In the stratosphere, its effect is weakened by ultraviolet radiation, but nearer the Earth's surface, it can cause atmospheric pollution. Yeah, best avoid that. I'd lost my chance to stop the two of them, and all I could do was watch them fight. Why? What was going on here?
ほら、どうしたの？もう終わり？もっと遊ぼうよ。
Serika's back to her old self. Kurusu had been the one to start this fight, but she seemed unable to hide her shock at having done so. Serika, meanwhile, was showing no signs of fear or resistance at all. Her strikes were calm and precise, and in this battle, that was what made the fatal difference.
ああ、そっか。そういえば運動は苦手なんだっけ？
Serika laughed and pulled her blade away. It was an obvious trap.
ダメだクルス。
Unfortunately, our warning went unheeded. Kurusu attacked, falling for the obvious trap. Serika smiled and moved, just a little, and then waited for the sword to go by. Kurusu had stepped too far forward and failed to strike her target. She lost her balance. Her body was wide open to the threat in front of her. We can't let it happen again, Takuru. We need to do something.
長い付き合いだったけど、これで終わりだね。バイバイ、のんちゃん。
A cold, cruel voice, and a single strike from above. A waterfall of light appeared in mid-air, coming right down on top of Kurusu's skull. It was a simple attack, but clearly a fatal one. My body finally slipped away from my mind and moved. But my hand was too far away. I wasn't going to make it in time. But then my hand grabbed onto something. It was a D-sword, gleaming dull grey in the moonlight. Yeah, it is our power to contend with Serika. I grabbed the weapon from the rift between dimensions and swung it up as hard as I could to block the strike above Kurusu's head. So it has come to this.
Takuru!
I put more strength into it and knocked Serika's sword away. It was a D-sword. I could feel it in my hands. A cursed blade, something that I'd created that existed only for me.
どうして、タク。
Serika stopped attacking and looked like she was about to cry. But you heard Takuru and Kurusu. Takuru didn't want this. Her voice was weak. But it was the voice of the girl I'd known since I was little.
どうしてのんちゃんを選ぶの？ずっとそばにいた私じゃなくて。
お前。
どうしてなの？ねえ、タク。それがタクの望んだ世界？
Serika was mumbling to herself like a patient with severe heat stroke.
おのえ、聞いてくれ。
But can we reason with Serika Noe? I wonder. There's much you have to answer for, Serika. You were there with Sakuma during the return of the new generation madness. And your culpability in Yui Tachibana's death has eroded any sense of familial trust.
おのえ。
Serika turned around and vanished into the darkness before either of us could say another word. And like that she is gone. I didn't know what was going on anymore. Yui was dead. Ito had killed her. And Serika and Kurusu had just been trying to kill each other with swords. Why, Serika? And why did Kurusu have a D-sword? Was she a Gigolomaniac too? Indeed.
クルス。
Of course, now that the fighting is temporarily over for the time being, we need explanations. Kurusu suddenly looked at me in terror.
一体何があったのか。これがどういうことなのか。聞かせてくれないか。お願いだ。
Kurusu slowly closed her eyes and then nodded. Heads or tails, a puzzling entanglement of shadows and light. And that is actually going to bring an end to this episode of Let's Play ChäoS Child. And when we return, adventurers, we shall finally hear Nono Kurusu's side of the story, and finally get a few more of those crucial missing puzzle pieces that connect all the threads together. As always, until next we meet.